Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll be splitting my time with the member from Calgary, Nose Hill. I'd first like to begin by saying my thoughts are with the families and the innocent people who are in harm's way right now while war rages in the Middle East. And to our Jewish community in Toronto and across Canada and globally, Shana Tova. This is not the kind of world that we want. But this has been the case since October 7th, 2023, when Hamas went on its violent rampage in Israel. I've been listening closely to the debate tonight, and I've appreciated the comments from honourable members on both sides of the House. This is a serious issue for us to discuss, and we are all concerned about the devastation in the Middle East and for Canadians who are in the region. I urge them to get out. Like all Canadians, I'm extremely concerned for those who are caught in this maelstrom of violence, particularly in Lebanon, where people are only looking to live their peaceful lives. But there are other inhabitants of Lebanon as well, Madam Speaker, those who do not have this same purpose. Their purpose is one of destruction. Their purpose is to destroy Israel. I'm speaking of the militant terrorist organization Hezbollah. Hezbollah exists with the aim of destroying Israel. Let's be clear on this. Hezbollah is not the government of Lebanon, nor does it represent the Lebanese people. What it represents is hate. It's an evil proxy for the Islamic Republic of Iran, and it carries out his heinous wishes. This is a terrorist organization working in league with Iran with an aim to eliminate our ally and friend, Israel. Hezbollah has been raining rockets on the people of northern Israel for over 11 months. Hezbollah has forced 60,000 Israelis to flee their homes. Hezbollah, through its actions, has made life miserable for people across the Middle East, and they must be stopped. Meanwhile, Israel, as we should know, like any state, has its first priority the defense and security of the citizens of its country. I want to talk about why we on this side of the House are steadfast in our support for Israel. 5 years ago, former Prime Minister Stephen Harper was asked, "Why do I support Israel?" His response was, "Why wouldn't I?" He went on to say, "Why wouldn't I support a fellow democratic nation where open elections, free speech, and religious tolerance are the everyday norm? Why wouldn't I support a country with a vibrant free press and an independent judiciary? Why wouldn't I support a valuable trading partner and wellspring of amazing technological innovation? Why wouldn't I support our most critical ally in the Middle East and in the international struggle against terrorism? In a rational world, in a world where simple common sense prevailed, the question, why do you support Israel, would be like asking, why do you support Australia or Canada? But we don't live in that rational, common sense world. So the case for Israel has to be made over and over. I, for one, am happy to make it. Former Prime Minister Stephen Harper was right. He showed clear principles. We on this side of the House believe Israel has the right to defend itself from Iran, who launched 181 ballistic missiles today onto 10 million Israeli civilians. Unlike the Secretary General of the UN, I will name the Islamic Republic of Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas, who must put down their arms and commit to ceasing their aggression against Israel. Remember, it was Hamas who made their incursion and raid into Israel almost 1 year ago today. That barbaric raid, which has been unequivocally condemned by all civilized humans, included the massacre of 1,200 people, the capture of 251 civilians, of whom 101 are still in captivity, and not all amongst the living. Let us not forget those captives, even as this conflict escalates, precipitated by the evil axis of resistance commanded by the Islamic Republic. By many accounts, Hezbollah has been weakened, but they are not defeated. Israel has destroyed the munitions and rocket depots to defend the people of their country. The Hezbollah leader and several senior members of Hezbollah have been killed to reduce the effectiveness of their organization. And still, there is no indication of a willingness to entertain a ceasefire. That is because they are a proxy for the Islamic Republic of Iran, who can tolerate many Hezbollah deaths and many Lebanese civilian deaths before thinking about a ceasefire. This is a shame. A rational adversary would surrender or call for a ceasefire before a land invasion was undertaken. But rational is not what these terrorist organizations are. There is no negotiating with terrorists, and that's a long-standing policy of Canada. But we do not see the rockets stop. Madam Speaker, some honourable members have been calling for diplomacy. But how do they think diplomacy works with terrorist organizations? We all want the fighting to end. And I think we have seen that from the comments made by other honourable members. But in the absence of a firm commitment from Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran to cease firing their missiles and rockets, I don't see how the fighting comes to an end. Madam Speaker, I want to address one issue that is still leaving me scratching my head. In today's question period, the Leader of the Opposition asked if the government would declare that Israel has the right to defend itself. After all, the Islamic Republic of Iran sent some 200 missiles into Israel. The answer from the Foreign Affairs Minister said nothing about Israel's right to defend itself. Instead, she said she has merely been in contact with her Israeli counterpart. Yes, she condemned the attack by Iran, the obvious thing to do. But the rest of her answer could hardly be construed as a robust support for our ally. I would also like this House to think about the declining state of our society here at home. Violence, non-peaceful protests, anti-Semitism, crime. What happens abroad deeply affects us here at home. Madam Speaker, a number of honourable members have been rightly talking about how recent events have been affecting their constituents. I would like to point out that in my riding, Toronto-St. Paul's, the terrible events in the Middle East have had a significant impact. The people I represent have told me that their kids are afraid to go to school, they don't feel safe in our streets, and they are saddened and horrified by the repeated violence in the Middle East. There are some who stand against Israel, or at least the Israeli government. That is to be expected in a pluralistic society. But they are all united in their want of peace, their wish for a world without terrorists. A ceasefire is what they want, then peace. Madam Speaker, some honourable members will know from my first speech in this place that I do give considerable value to our country's history. That is why I was particularly impressed by the speech in this evening's debate by the honourable member from Wellington, Halton Hills. To that end, I would like to invoke the words of our former Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Brian Mulroney, as I conclude my remarks. He too was a steadfast defender of Israel. As recently as last year, he said, "I think that Canada could have only one position: complete blanket support for Israel and unrelenting denunciation of a jihadist criminal group, namely Hamas. We can certainly add Hezbollah to that list as well. Let me be clear, no one wants war. No one outside the Islamic Republic of Iran, as we heard earlier tonight. But no one wants to be left open to the terrorism of Hezbollah either. These terror organizations have wrought destruction and devastation across the Middle East for decades. It's time for them to end their attacks. We stand with Israel, the only democracy in the region. Where I come from, democracies stick with each other." Thank you.